Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the PB Political Podcast. I'm Eshan Pokhrel.
And I'm Michael Bodeker.
And today we are here covering the last part of the presidential election for now, the third-party candidates and potential spoiler candidates. Because I will say, this year I feel like there's a very small lane for a third-party candidate to potentially make noise. And we're going to get into all the reasons for that later. But yeah, Bodeker is here today. Cameron is on leave, I guess, because he's really busy. So I'm just giving him some time off. And Bodeker will be filling back in with the PB election podcast. So great to have you back, Bodeker.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so let's just get into it. There's really, I feel like every year there's always two big third parties, the Libertarians and the Green Party. Those are always the two big ones. And then they're back this year. But there's also a little bit more. Obviously, there's always little smaller parties running. And this year, there's Libertarian and Green. I will say the Libertarian Party seems a little weaker this year than in past. Like in 2016, Gary Johnson was like a real, like, credible candidate in all senses of the word. I mean, he was a governor of a state and everything. But this year, they don't have as much of a credible bench, and the Green Party actually has a pretty interesting candidate. Again, I'll go into this in a little bit. And there's also there's a movement for potentially like no labels. It's like a PAC type like group organization, not really a party, but they might be running a candidate, which could be something to watch moving forward into 2024. And yeah, let's just get into it. So first thing, let's just start off. Bodeker, how do you feel about third parties in 2024? Do you think there's actually a chance to obviously, I mean, not really win, but like actually make noise?
So, I mean, I guess I'll hop straight into it. In the conventional sense, no. But as you know, I've been floating this crazy theory for the last year or so, actually, probably even before the midterms, that should Trump lose the Republican primary, I think he'll run as a third party, like an America First party or something. And I think that would be the most interesting third party scenario because it's almost like a Marvel movie, the amount of multiverse possibilities that exists with a Trump third party run. And so I think that's pretty interesting. But I guess in the more conventional candidates, yeah, you're right. Cornel West is interesting. But the Libertarians a little bit weaker. But I don't really see the Libertarians or the Greens getting more than maybe 5% of the total popular vote. I don't know how you feel. And then, we've discussed a Joe Manchin no labels campaign. I don't really know. I almost feel like both parties kind of hate Joe Manchin because he doesn't really like sway to either of them. And I think that maybe angers probably voters of both parties, even though the center kind of likes him. So I really don't think the third parties will get probably over 5% of the popular vote, except if there's a crazy Trump third party run, which would be wild.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think that's an interesting theory, having Trump. I don't think Trump will lose the primary. That's the only obstacle. I think if he does lose the primary, there's no shot he doesn't run for president as a third party because I mean, I feel like his ego wouldn't let him just lose the primary and fall away, That being said, yeah, but I think, yeah, so let's get into Dr. Cornel West. He's like a political activist, like political thinker type guy. I think he's pretty popular in around like the U.S. He's pretty well known. I've known his name, but I didn't really know who he is that much. But he's running president out of the Green Party, like Bodeker said. I think that Democrats. So there's been new, and we'll mention the We'll talk about Libertarians too, but I think the Green Party actually could bring a little bit of a threat this time around. And that's mainly because, so obviously there's been, like in 2016, that was a big one. A lot of Democrats, a lot of the establishment, like tries to blame Jill Stein, who was running out of the Green Party, for them losing in 2016. Not the fact that Hillary Clinton was probably one of the worst and least personable candidates of all time, or at least in modern history. That's not why she lost, according to them. It's because of Jill Stein running out of the Green Party. And she did pretty well. I will say the third parties in 2016 did not do bad. I'm not sure. I think she got like around 2% of the vote, which obviously isn't enough to win, but still a decent amount. That being said, Cornel West, I think, is a little bit better of a candidate. He has more name ID around the country. And also Biden is an incumbent, but he's also very weak. I mean, Biden is very weak. Let's be real. There's a little bit of consternation around the Democrats and like Biden's team right now. That RFK Jr., who is polling double digits, polling low 20s to high teens percentages, is going to give him trouble going into the convention. So Biden's not in a great place right now, electorally speaking. And I think Dr. West could actually give him some trouble, if not like to win like electoral votes, because I think where Dr. West would be the strongest would probably be in more liberal states like Vermont, which is very solidly blue on a federal level, or not New Hampshire, like like Massachusetts or something, where the Green Party tends to be more active and more popular, which won't sway most likely Biden's electoral chances, but it will make his numbers look worse. I think that'll be something interesting to watch. And with the Libertarians, I'm trying to find the total vote count that I don't know why I can't find it that Jill Stein got, but Libertarians, they have 3 candidates running. They have Chase Oliver. He was the chair of the Atlanta Libertarian Party from 2016 to 2017. He was also a candidate for Georgia's 5th congressional district in 2020 and Georgia's Senate seat in 2022. They also have Mike Termott, who is a police officer from Hallandale Beach, Florida, who ran for the Florida's 20th congressional district in 2022, and Lars Mapstead, the president of FUPA Games. So not really a great bench over there on the Libertarian side, which is disappointing because I think the Libertarians, and this is something I harp on a lot, Libertarians have the potential to be a major player if they could solidify their party ideology more and have like a credible candidate at like local levels. Like Justin Amash, obviously, the former representative from Michigan, was a Libertarian for his last year, I believe, in Congress. He switched from the Republicans to Libertarian, but he has not run for president or run for anything since then. And I think the Libertarians have I think there's an ideological agreement with most of the country. I think they're pretty popular ideologically, but they haven't been able to translate that into any type of electoral success. So what do you think about all of that?
No, and I actually found the 2016 vote share percentage. Gary Johnson got 3.28% and Jill Stein got 1.07%. So they got about
a
little less than 4.5% between the both of them, which is actually less than I thought, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought it was higher actually. I mean, they made Jill Stein like a villain, the Clinton campaign. Of course, that went well for them. I mean, again, there was no evidence that Jill Stein's the reason Hillary Clinton lost. I think Hillary Clinton lost because she didn't go to Wisconsin at all. But we're not going to talk about that.
Enough, Bernie Sanders actually got 111,000 votes in 2016.
Interesting.
Colin Powell got 25.
Colin Powell?
Yeah, Colin Powell got 25 votes.
Oh, wow, he did. That's wild. But yeah, what do you think about the whole issue around electoral, like the Libertarian Party in general? Let's talk about that for a little bit. Just like how they've been able, like I feel like they're so popular, like ideologically, but they cannot translate that into actual success.
Oh, I've said this for a long time too, that libertarianism is one of those things in politics that everyone likes, but no one wants. Like, it's really popular to tell, like, most people don't like the government being involved in their life, but when you tell them, like, you give them the areas that the government wouldn't be involved, and then they're like, actually, I'm not going to vote for that. I feel like authoritarianism is much more of a, like, because it's like especially with the partisan divide we have now, like, especially like with Republicans, right? With, whether it be books in schools or with transgender children or any of those things that are probably a little bit more, I guess, authoritarian in the way that if you look at it that way, those things are really popular with the Republican base, not necessarily, I guess, from the same context of a libertarian. So libertarianism is great in concept, but horrible electorally, and I think it has been for a long, long time.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Again, they've never had an elected, they haven't had an elected. I don't think they ever have had an elected representative or governor or senator. Obviously,
I think Justin Amash was technically libertarian, wasn't he?
Well, he was, but again, like he didn't run as a libertarian. He switched in office, so I guess that doesn't really count. But they have had a libertarian. There has been a libertarian in Congress recently. It was Justin Amash, who I would say is like the best Libertarian Party. I think if like they have a face, it could be him. He's very consistent, very well liked and respected. But anyways, let's talk about the no labels effort. So that's like the one. That's the new. Other than President Trump potentially running as a spoiler, the no labels effort is something that I've been keeping an eye on recently. And so No Labels is like a kind of like an organization that works in DC already. So I'm sure you've heard of them already, Bodeker. But they basically try to find like centrist and bipartisan ways to pass legislation and they also like endorse legislation and all of that, like all that fun stuff, basically. Basically, they're a lobbying effort, like a group, to an extent, and they work with candidates and try to get bipartisan stuff passed. But they've been floating the idea of having their own ticket for the presidential election in 2024. They've been working. One of the chairs of the organization did an interview with Breaking Points yesterday, and I was listening to it. And they said they've been working on getting ballot access for the past couple of years. So I'm assuming that means that they have ballot access like in basically every state for the 2024 election. They want to run as a centrist team. They said that they will. So it seems like they've been like prepping for a potential matchup against President Biden and President Trump, a rematch. And they've public, like yesterday on the interview, the chairman said that they would actually bow out of the race if there was like a big lead for either candidate, but particularly for President Biden. If they see like a big lead emerge in polling and stuff, then they won't run a ticket. But if it's like close, and this brings us into the polling that we're going to talk about in a little bit, but if it's like a close race with a lot of like opening, like a lot of like, if it's like a 35% to 35%, something like that, I don't know. That's just a number I made up, but then they will have their own ticket. And there's been a lot of speculation for who they'll run. Joe Manchin, like we were saying earlier, like you were saying, has been polled in some polls, and he got 9 in a race between President Biden, President Trump, and Joe Manchin. He picked up like, it wasn't a lot. It was like 8-9%. But I saw this poll, just like it came out of nowhere, and it was actually kind of surprising that it was something that even like exists, because it literally came out of nowhere. I saw it and I texted you. I was like, Joe Manchin's getting polled against Biden. And obviously Joe Manchin's running for Senate right now for re-election. And he's probably going to lose because the governor, Jim Justice, is likely going to be in the race. And I mean, the last poll I saw out of there, he's up like 20 on Manchin.
Yeah, I saw that. It was like 32 or something stupid.
Yeah, so Joe Manchin's time in the Senate might be coming to an end. And obviously, as a Democrat from West Virginia, eventually it was inevitable with the shift, with all the loss of all the mining work, all the issues that West Virginia's faced. It seemed inevitable, and now it looks like it's coming to an end. So what do you think about that? Maybe a Joe Manchin. Yeah, here it is. Biden, this is from Echelon Insights, May 22nd to 25th. They polled President Biden, Governor DeSantis, and Joe Manchin. Biden 42, DeSantis 38, Manchin 8. And in a Biden-Trump Manchin match, it's Biden 41, Trump 42, and Manchin 9. So just quickly, what do you think about the whole Joe Manchin potential, and not even just Joe Manchin, just the no labels effort in general?
I think it's interesting. I don't know if it necessarily has the name rec of a libertarian or green. Not saying that everyone like votes for them, but at least I feel like most people know who the libertarians and the greens are, even if they don't necessarily vote for them. I don't think a lot of people probably know who no labels are, and so I think it would be potentially they would have to get a really big name rec candidate to really make it like a really, I don't know, almost like somebody that everyone, like an Oprah or something, like, you know, like somebody that everyone knows who that is
or something.
Yeah, like The Rock running, or I think that they need that kind of name rec to propel even potential to have a debate.
Yeah, and I mean, well, I agree, but I mean, even 8% would probably be enough for debate. Yeah, and we had a 3% candidate. Like, I don't think we had a debate with Gary Johnson in 2016, even though he polled pretty high for amount of time. He was polling in double digits, I believe. If I look back into that, I'll check into that later. But yeah, we've had a 3-person. Obviously, the last real 3-person presidential race we had was 1992, 1996 with Ross Perot. Bill Clinton and George W. Which one was it? H.W. Bush. And honestly, and I tweeted this the other day, if Ross Perot hadn't dropped out of that race, because in 1992 Ross Perot dropped out for a time and they rejoined the race. If he hadn't dropped out, he got 20% of the popular vote. I mean, he could have won some electoral votes. He was close in some states, and obviously he's running out of Texas, where George H.W. Bush was as well. He was close. There was potential for Ross Perot to win electoral votes, and a third-party candidate hasn't won electoral votes, and from a state since George Wallace, I believe, back in 1968.
68, yeah.
68, yeah, the former governor of Alabama. So, yeah, let's talk about polling, because that's actually where we get into this now. This is why we're doing this episode. Obviously, we want to cover third parties, and we will be covering. We're actually both going to be the main third-party contributors for the election. Coverage we'll be doing on our website, so get ready for that. It won't be too much, but just to make sure they are covered. Suffolk University and USA Today ran a poll from June 5th to June 9th, so relatively recently, 1,000 registered voters, and it found that in a race between Biden, Trump, and a generic third-party candidate, Biden leads with 34 points, Trump with 32, and a third party has 23. But when Biden goes up against DeSantis and a generic third-party candidate, Biden's up with 33, DeSantis has 26, and a third party has 25. So, I mean, I genuinely think there is, if you can find a candidate, and I don't really think it matters which, like, it could be Cornel West with a solid vice president, like a vice presidential pick who's like in government. I don't know if there's a solid vice president there. It can be someone from the Libertarian Party that hasn't emerged. It could be someone from the No Labels effort. It can just be an independent. It can be President Trump. There is a lane, I think. I think people are just tired of the Biden and Trump, like, there's just exhaustion between the two. And obviously not with the Republicans on Trump, but on the Democratic side, Biden's kind of getting that exhaustion factor out of the voters. There's been a lot of, obviously he's polling. He isn't really hitting past 60% in primary polls, and he does have challengers. So what do you think about, like, these polls are the biggest indication for, like, there could be something here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And also, I think the biggest question mark is, like, I guess, what kind of more ideology does the third party come out of? So is that 23 Cornel West and the Greens, which would mean that undecided voters would probably, I would say, go lean Republican. And then, so where would Cornel West hurt Joe Biden most? It would be in your really deep blue states, so, like California, Illinois, Massachusetts. But I also think it could be interesting to see if he hurts them in, like, Minnesota. Because Minnesota's a very, like, I think Minnesota's the state that's voted blue the longest.
Yeah, but it's not like a blowout every time. It's pretty
not.
close.
It's like it's been within 5 or 10 points the last couple of elections.
Yeah.
So could that be enough to swing it? I don't know. Or if you say it's a libertarian, right, and it could hurt President Trump or DeSantis or Republican nominee in a state like Texas, which has been under 10 points recently in the last few elections. So say you've got a libertarian and Trump on the ballot, that splits kind of the vote, and Biden wins Texas. That would be kind of weird.
And if like President Trump is the nominee or the third party candidate, obviously this is speculation, but I could see scenarios where states like Alabama and Mississippi in particular, could move blue just because of the split President Trump would bring to a generic Republican. I don't think it matters who the Republican is. Yeah. I mean, Mississippi could easily take its 8 electoral votes or however many they have this year and go blue. Same with Alabama. Same with Kentucky. Actually, well, Kentucky's the most. I don't know. Who knows? There's a lot of potential, and I think that's like that's something to watch. But the polling, I don't know. Like one thing that stands out to me with these polls is that DeSantis is less popular, but when DeSantis is in the race, more people are undecided. So it's like. So, like, DeSantis only has 26% support in this poll. Trump is 32%. But more people are just like, I don't think I would vote, it seems like. Or they wouldn't vote for any of these 3 options. Which I think, do you think President Trump will lose the primary? Like, as of now?
As of now, I think, okay, I'll give it to you in, like, a percentage. I think it's probably 65% chance he will. I think he'll lose 65% chance to lose the primary, 35% chance to win it. I think just all of the legal issues and stuff, and I think how I think we'll see something like we saw with the Democrats with Bernie the last two elections, where Bernie always usually starts out with a pretty broad base of support, and then the establishment kind of is like, you're not very electable, so we're gonna kind of stack the deck against you, which frustrates the heck out of Bernie. I mean, I kind of do feel bad for him in that sense that he never, I guess, got his chance because he kind of got shoehorned out of it for more electable candidates. I think we'll see something with the Republican establishment and Trump, where I think the establishment Republicans that were the more traditional, like, I guess, the anti-Trump Republicans, I think we'll see them, and I think a lot of them still, quote unquote, run the party. So I think we're going to see a lot of money movement, a lot of movement away from Trump, especially with the establishment, that I think will that may only bolster his cause with a lot of Republicans, because they'll see that he got cheated out of the primary or whatever scenario you want to see, and then run as a third party. So I think, honestly, it could be a disaster for Republicans nationally with however this primary is handled. I mean, it's just, I would hate to be working there right now. I mean, it would just be, I'd hate my job.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, since the news of the Florida indictment broke, and I think there's more legal issues coming in Georgia too soon, which could even, I mean, but like polling wise, since the news broke, Trump in the last 5 polls on the Real Clear Politics website here, Quinnipiac 53%, YouGov 51, Messenger 53, Harris 59, and a CNN poll that just got released 47. But I will say that DeSantis in the same time frame, 23 in Quinnipiac, 21 in YouGov, 17 in Messenger, and 14 in Harris. Trump was up by 45 points in the Harvard-Harris poll, which is one of the more reputable pollsters too, and one of the more nonpartisan pollsters. Obviously, in CNN, I would kind of give the likelihood that DeSantis gets a little bit more favorability, and Chris Christie has a higher favorability in this one too, which makes sense from an ideological base if we're going to analyze it. But Trump's still up 21 in the CNN poll. I think he's going to win the primary. I know there's issues. I don't think I feel like this is the dilemma for the Republicans, which also makes it more like interesting for a third party challenge. I think if Trump wins the nominee, he won't win the presidency because he's too toxic to independent voters. That being said, Biden has like a potential documents case coming. He has this Ukraine stuff, which is heating up again. His son, Hunter Biden, just took a plea deal where he's going to jail for tax evasion, I think. I believe. I want to get that right. I believe it's tax evasion. Yes.
It was misdemeanor tax charges.
Yeah, but he took a plea deal. There was a lot of other stuff that, from the stuff that came out, it looked like he had a credible chance to get charged with. The federal judge in Miami just ordered that the trial for President Trump has to begin as soon as August 14th. We'll keep an eye out on that. That'll be before the first debate. Who knows if Trump does debates? I don't think he will, but we can hope. But that being said, Trump will, if he wins the nomination, I don't think he can win the primary or the general against Biden. But that being said, Biden is like one event away from being in the same issue, same problem where Trump is. Like, same legal issues. The only difference will be that Trump is much more of an abrasive character and Biden's much more mellow. But this is where I think a third party, and it has to be someone that obviously has high name. I don't think it matters what party they're from. If their name's on the ballot in every state, if it's someone that's well known enough, they're gonna get votes. And I mean, maybe Joe Manchin is that person just because the name's familiar and it's not Biden or Trump. I mean, I wouldn't even discount that as a possibility. Now, Joe Manchin obviously has his own issues, and I don't think he would actually. I don't actually think he'll run for president, but it could be Cornel West. I mean, it could be someone that's just like out of the orthodox. That's like not really two of the most familiar faces, I guess, in the world right now.
Yeah.
And that makes I think this makes just the Republican or the independent third party charge this time just something to really keep an eye on. And obviously we're going to do our best. And Cornel West is the Green Party nominee. He's the only candidate in the race, and it seems like he will be. They're going to just hold out and let him be the nominee. Libertarian Party, it's probably going to be Chase Oliver, just because he has more experience in the party and he's run for office before.
Yep.
And No Labels has said that they will probably announce their platform by July, after July 4th, shortly. And I don't know if that means they're going to announce a ticket by then, but do you have any speculation for who that ticket could be as of right now, just for fun before we end it?
No idea. But I do have a prediction for you. We saw how toxic 2016 and 2020 were. I think this one's gonna be like the big kahuna of toxic elections. This is like potentially like both presidents like under like criminal investigation, like everyone's upset, everyone's angry. This could be very, very like just angry, just a very, like, we thought 2016 and 2020 were bad. We lived through those. Not a fun time. This could be something. That's for sure. I can just feel it. You can kind of feel it brewing.
Yeah, this one does not feel good. I'm not gonna lie. There's gonna be a lot of I think it's gonna be more of like exhaustion more than anything. It's gonna be because this is it for President Trump. I mean, right? Like, it has to be. He's 77. This is gonna be it for Biden too. There's no shot that, like, I mean, surely not. And they might surprise us, but this is like the last one. So this could either be like the end of one of the most toxic times in modern history for American politics, or it'll just extend another 4 years. And I don't know what's gonna happen, but I think that all of this has opened like a real potential for like and I mean, I'm not saying a third party candidate will win, but I think that a third party candidate can really swing an election in this one. Maybe they'll win. Who knows? I mean, maybe no one will get 270 and they'll go to Congress. Who knows? Which would be even worse. That would be the worst thing possible.
If that happens, I mean, so when was the last time the election was taken to Congress?
1800. Yeah.
Has it been?
Yeah. It happened on Veep. Spoiler alert. But no, yeah, 1800. Jefferson, Burr, Adams, all that. Yeah, that's possible. Hey, everything's possible. And honestly, yeah, and this is the fun part that we get to announce now. Since now that we're covering the election exclusively, basically, we get to do fun stuff like this. We're gonna just go into there's gonna be episodes just like hypothetical. As we get close to the general, we're gonna do like forecast breakdowns. We're gonna be doing histories of how we got here. I know me and Bodeker are excited for that as big political history nerds. We'll be doing really everything that we want to do. And if you guys have suggestions, find us at info@pppolitical.com or DM us or anything. Reach out to us if you guys want to see certain things covered. We're going to, we'll be doing everything election related. So I'm excited for that. It'll be fun. Check out our website, our Instagram, TikTok, all of that stuff. As we upscale for 2024, starting in August, we will be going full scale and bringing you guys the most nonpartisan and hopefully the most, just like the least inflammatory news possible. So that's about everything for this episode. Third party election, primaries, candidates, everything. Thank you guys for listening. I'm Eshan Pokhrel.
And I'm Michael Bodeker.
And goodbye.